Good afternoon, guys. Thanks so much for joining me for our webinar on customer service effects on social media. I hope everyone's coping okay with the recent lockdown in such unusual times, but it is, I guess, a good time to do a webinar. So thanks for joining me today. My name's Kristy Bailey. I am obviously a trainer and also an advisor on behalf of Business Station as part of the ASBAS program, but I'm also an owner of a marketing business. So a lot of what we're going to go through today in terms of strategy, the customer service techniques and that kind of thing that we're going to talk about. And obviously social media is what I do on a daily basis. So please feel free to ask me anything that may relate to your business. The webinar is designed to be quite interactive, so please use the Q&A functionality to go on and ask questions at any time. We'll also have time at the end to go through any questions that you might have, but I'm more than happy for you to pop questions in as we go as well. All right, so we'll get into it. Now, in terms of what we're going to go through today, we are going to look at the suggestion that customer service is a single interaction, whereas a customer experience incorporates that entire customer journey. So we're going to look at the customer journey itself and understanding that whole customer experience process. We'll look at the dimensions of customer service, obviously first impressions, handling complaints effectively, and then upselling as strategies to really improve that customer experience. We'll then talk about social media and that critical link between each customer interaction and social media. Now, throughout the webinar, you'll discover how important customer interactions are for your online presence and what you can do to generate that positive word of mouth from each and every customer. So no matter what industry you're in, whether you're selling products or services, we'll talk about those links between customer interactions and your online presence by way of social media. So as I say, customer service is a single touch point with a brand, and that's at the moment that they're in front of you, or it could be online, whereas customer experience really impacts feelings and emotion and encompasses that entire customer journey. So customer experience is really defined by the interaction and experiences that your customer has with your business throughout that entire customer journey, from the first point of contact, and that could be online, and it could be very much the contact with your digital assets as opposed to any member of your staff or yourself, right through to becoming a really happy and hopefully a loyal customer, so an advocate for your brand. Now, your job is to understand that whole customer experience process and then learn the critical link between each of your own customer interactions. And for the purpose of today's session, specifically looking at how social media fits into that customer experience. So rather than customer service sitting alone, we need to consider your job to be customer experience management. Now, customer experience really has to be a top priority for businesses, and the reason is very simple. Companies that focus on customer experience reduce churn, so that turnover of customers, and increase your revenues. So that obviously leads to higher profits, which is essentially the ultimate goal, particularly in small business. So successful customer experience management really requires a 360-degree view of your customers, and incorporating integrated and up-to-date data on them as well, so as much as you know. And that will help you understand customers, create your own customer journey map, and we'll look at an example of a customer journey map shortly. It'll allow you to develop an emotional connection to your customers, and your customers to develop an emotional connection to your brand, and to capture customer feedback and then therefore track their satisfaction. And then that allows you to adapt your products or services as and when you need to. So implementing a social media strategy in your customer service model will give you a chance to communicate with your customers. And that's really going to be at a level that makes sure they feel part of your story and really encourages them to recommend your brand to other people. Now, an interesting stat, 1 in 3 customers will leave a brand that they love after just one bad experience. So customers that rate companies with a higher customer score, so a 10 out of 10, essentially, a very high customer score, will generally spend about 140 times more and remain loyal for years. So it's really crucial that we get them to that level. Now, looking at the actual customer journey, now this is a way to map it out. You'll see the journey itself through the middle, so awareness, consideration, purchase, retention, and then onto advocacy. And then the touch points that you'll have with your customers sit above and below that main block. Now, this can vary a lot business to business, depending on the nature of your business. So this will just give you an idea of how the journey may look. I would really encourage you to map the journey out for your business. And to do that, you need to think about and visualize each and every touch point that you're going to have or that your business has with your future and your current clients. So really think about each step of interaction, starting with that very first step of when they discover your product or service. So that exercise helps you to step into their shoes and to see your business from the customer's perspective. Quite often, particularly in small business, we get so caught up just running the business in the day-to-day that you don't stop to think, if a customer had no contact with you or that very first point of contact, what does it look like? So essentially, you need to map the journey out before you design the experience around that, because you need to know the steps that a customer will take. So on this diagram, you see the online interactions at the top and then the more traditional or offline interactions at the bottom. And you see social media just at the end towards that advocacy phase. So think about online ads, word of mouth via social media. It actually does pop up more than just at the end in that retention and advocacy phase. So we'll talk about that. Now, for the journey itself, that typically starts with awareness and consideration. So they're the first stages of the customer journey, and they're really crucial to adding people to your sales funnel. So customers are reading reviews, they're looking at testimonials, they're comparing their experience with you and their online experience largely with you to experiences that they're having with other customers. If they have any inquiries, a really quick response time leaves a lasting positive impression to them at this point. So think about a customer that's just found your product, perhaps through an online ad or a Google search. It looks like your product's going to meet their needs or solve a problem that they have, but they've got a question about one of the features. They're going to want a really quick response. So think about that stage of the journey. Think about, can they find the information that they need in the places that they need it? And if not, do you respond quickly if they do need more information? Now, the next stage of the journey is conversion or purchase. Now, that part of the journey is crucial because it really deepens the customer's relationship with your business. It's also where leads or potential customers will decide that your products are the best fit for their needs. And if they can determine that you are the best fit, they'll buy something. So the quicker you can get people to this point with fewer barriers, the better. So if people can transact, now this might not be an online transaction. There'll be plenty of businesses that are tuned in today that you might have a face-to-face business. You could be selling products, services, a range of different things, but think about that journey and get them to actually transact with you, or whether that's make a booking, make an appointment, purchase something online, offline. Get them there with as few barriers as possible. Now, the next stage is retention. It's not enough to spend all of your marketing energy getting new customers and then just leaving them to fend for themselves once they've bought something. You really need to engage with them after the fact, after purchasing, to keep them coming back. So if your customers do stop hearing from you and you stop helping them get value from your product or stop engaging with them throughout their product life cycle, then you'll risk making that life cycle much shorter. So high retention helps you to drive further customer acquisition. Now that happens more organically through the help of referral programs or other incentives to get people to recommend you, or just through them wanting to recommend you. To get customers to share about you, you need to engage with them. So make sure that you are engaging with them and to remind them of the value that you offer them and the increased benefits that they can get by sharing their experience with other people. Advocacy then comes with satisfied customers. So 83% of satisfied customers say that they're willing to share or refer to their network of family and friends if they're satisfied. So we want each and every customer to be an advocate and to be sharing their positive experience. So there's a huge component of that sits with social media. So we'll get into how you can maximize that as well. So just keep in mind that customer expectations are on the rise. That's going to continue to grow. What that does is forces companies to reinvent themselves, and you'll need to constantly do that to be able to survive. The reason is that there's so much availability of multiple products and services, and there's lots of different brands, lots of different offers that sit around individual brands. So with the presence of online platforms, in particular social media, the customer has greater control in decision-making, information search, and also communication with other consumers. So keep that in mind. This customer journey is absolutely crucial. If you haven't mapped yours out already, I would highly encourage you to do that. Now, we'll refer back to that a little bit later as well. Now, a key way to really improve the customer journey is to obviously truly understand your customers. You have to remember that not all customers are the same, and that means that they won't need or expect the same things when they're purchasing products or services. So everyone will have different needs, and that is because they fall into different categories. So they might differ through their age. It could be because of their social background, their economic background, cultural background. They may have special interests, and they may be at varying levels in terms of their physical and mental abilities. So you have to keep in mind that they are not all the same. But to really successfully meet the needs and expectations of your clients, first of all, you've got to know your audience. So you have to establish that really clear picture of who exactly your audience is. Now, that requires going beyond basic demographic info like your age, your gender, their location. You really need to develop more of a clear picture of your target market and your key customers. So you'll need to know everything from behavioural to psychographic information about your market. To make sure you're reaching the right buyers, have that clear idea of who your buyers are. Then you have to recognise that your ideal customers might not be who you think they are. So who's coming through your doors now, or who's engaging with your business and purchasing your products or service may not be who you actually want to be purchasing with you. So obviously you'll need to analyse your existing customer base, have a look at what traits within that customer base correlate with repeat purchases, more loyal customers. Think about what segments tend to become long-term loyal customers and do a lot of research around that. Once you've then determined who they are, make sure that you're looking for new ways to meet their needs. Once you've worked out that most valuable audience and what it is they're looking for, your goal should be to continuously find new ways to meet those needs. So you should never, ever expect that your target market or your customers will change their expectations to fit your product. You will always be adapting your product or service to meet changing needs, wants, and expectations of customers. Now, in terms of customer needs and expectations, it's also really important that you develop a customer-centric culture, and that goes for yourself and your employees. Really encourage staff to keep your customers at the centre of every decision they make. We'll expand more on customer service, so we will go into that side of it, but make sure that you've set clear standards for your team. If it's your team that interacts with your customers most often, it could be your support team, it could be a sales team, but that will have a major impact on whether or not your company is meeting those customer expectations. So hiring and then obviously training an excellent team is absolutely crucial. But in order to be able to manage and monitor all of that, you have to collect feedback regularly. So social media, again, this is where social media ties into that. It makes it so easy for us to collect feedback from our customers and from our competitors' customers as well. So we'll go into exactly how to do that. But I would highly recommend scoping out your competitors, know what they're doing, have a look at their customers, and look at their range of products and services and perhaps how that is changing or has changed. Look at their customers and how their customers engage with them and what kind of feedback they're getting. That will really help you to determine if needs are potentially changing and if you need to keep up with competition, essentially. All right, so there's 3 dimensions of customer service. Now, customer service is at the core of meeting the needs and wants of your customers. All of these customer service dimensions really interlink. So firstly, you've got human dimensions. Now, that relates to body language, that's attitudes. It could be how motivated staff are, or perhaps how motivated they're not in some concerning situations. Then you've got your business dimensions. So this could be your processes and your procedures. Your product offering, is the product up to scratch? And is it actually meeting those needs? Then tying into your business dimensions, you've got your staff knowledge, knowledge of specific functions, knowledge of your products and services, and knowledge of the range of products and services, but also knowledge on your target market. And then the product delivery, so how the process is to actually deliver that product or service. Then you've got hidden dimensions. So here, hidden dimensions are these underlying things in a business. So it's what's going on behind the scenes that could be impacting customer service. It could be business policies. It could be technical issues, pressure on staff. It could be due to limited resources. It could be even staff levels of empowerment. So they don't know, what sort of level of empowerment they have from a customer service perspective. It could be quality working relationships. And it can be staff bringing home problems to work. So in terms of those hidden dimensions of customer service, what we think about here is, how calm a duck looks on a lake or a pond, but under the water, their legs are going like crazy. So that's essentially what we need to create from a customer service perspective. There will always be hidden dimensions going on behind the scenes, but we need to maintain that high level of customer service regardless. Now, it's really important to note that customers also have hidden dimensions that really impact on how they're receiving your product or service, or how they're interacting with your staff. So what may have happened in their day could have made them difficult to please, for example. So it's important that your staff understand that that can occur, and I guess not to take those kind of things personally, and how to deal with them. But the awareness of these factors is the key thing. It's really good for all of these dimensions to be known, obviously for yourself, but frontline staff or any staff behind the scenes. So research does suggest that if you align these three dimensions, it'll equate to excellent customer service. So keep that in mind. Now, good customer service is absolutely critical to success in all businesses, no matter what industry you're in. And it can really elevate you well above your competition. So you have to make sure that you use that mantra of under promise and over deliver, because it will really improve that customer retention rate. Just remember that if your customers are frustrated with the service that they receive, they're more likely to rate their service poorly. So I would have a look at your reviews online. Now, social media is largely where that sits. Obviously, you've got Facebook reviews, you've got comments on posts, which can act like reviews or referrals as well. You have reviews on Google. There'll be other business listings like Yelp. There could be Zomato. There could be TripAdvisor, depending on the industry that you're in. So there's a range of different ways that customers can review you. The key thing about this is really knowing where your customers have left reviews for you. Now, another key thing about that is that customers can review even if you don't claim a listing. So Google, for example, you might not think you have a Google My Business account or a listing, but chances are that someone will have reviewed you on this. Now, Google creates them through audits based on locations and other business information that sits around the web. So make sure that you are claiming all of those listings and really actively engaging with reviews, because people are actively looking at this information as part of their decision-making process. So it comes down to, yes, it's customer service in terms of responding to those reviews, but it's also for the future customers that you may either be gaining through these reviews or potentially losing because you're not responding to reviews or the reviews aren't great. Okay, so in terms of how do we improve customer service to make sure that you have that good retention rate and ultimately create these brand advocates? Well, there's a few key areas that we'll go over, and we'll start with first impressions. So first impressions are made within 3 to 7 seconds of an initial meeting, so a very short period of time. Now, if you have a look at a web search, for example, now the majority of people will actually start looking for a business or a service, so a product or a service with a web search. That first impression time greatly reduces. So let's say that you've done a Google search and you're looking for a particular product or service. Put that in, click on a website. You won't sit there for 3 to 7 seconds and just look at the homepage. You're going to decide within 1 to 2 seconds whether or not this is the right business for you. So it's so important when you don't even have the opportunity of people speaking to you face to face or truly understanding your product. What does even the homepage of your website look like? What does it say about your business? From a first impression perspective, is it really meeting the needs of your customers? And does it, I guess, correctly depict who you are as a business? Now, this customer journey starting with first impressions, like I said, it can happen online, but it also can happen offline. So it can happen when people walk into your office or to your business, into your store perhaps. Each and every person interacts with the business for the same reason, and that's to solve a need or a want and to feel good. So you need to make sure that at that stage of the first impression, they really get that and achieve that. Now, things that form a first impression, moving away from online, obviously your environment or your venue presentation. Now, environment first impressions can include a range of things. That could be anything from smell to temperature. It could be the music, the overall atmosphere that you're creating. You have to keep that consistent with that brand that you're trying to create. And it really has to speak directly to your target market. So think about the fashion industry, clothing stores, retail clothing stores, just let's say at a shopping centre. They really do speak to the customer that they're trying to attract. When you think of the younger brands, they might have louder music, busier shelves, that kind of thing. Whereas brands that are trying to attract an older, more mature market might have less busy in terms of their store layout and clothing. It could be calmer music, older people serving them, that kind of thing. So it really has to tie in. Now, and that sort of links into your own or your staff's personal image, making sure that they're meeting the needs of your customers, and speaking directly to your target audience is a really key thing. The language that you use also sends another message. Are you using slang? How are you speaking? And this becomes really important when you start dealing with different cultures as well. So if you're dealing with people from different backgrounds in terms of what they can understand, if they've got different, if there's language barriers, if you work with an international market, for example, are you acknowledging customs and traditions and even superstition type things that they have? So keep that in mind. Body language is really important. Whether or not you're smiling is really important. Acknowledgement of people walking in your door is hugely important. Now, Disney have a concept. It's the 15 and 10 rule. So their rule is that if a customer is within 15 feet of a staff member, so that's about 4.5 meters, they have to acknowledge them with a smile. Now, if that customer then comes within 10 feet, which is about 3.5 meters of them, they have to acknowledge them with a smile and also verbally acknowledge them. So, hello, how can I help you? Hi, I'll be with you in a minute. Hi, how you going? That kind of thing. So that 15 and 10 rule is really important. Once you start having that initial engagement with the customer, it's really important that your attitude is right and that you are showing empathy for them if that's relevant, depending on the situation. Making them feel good and creating that lasting first impression happens with that engagement that you start to have, whether or not you're complimenting them, talking about the weather, talking about their children that might be going crazy in the background, and showing empathy for that situation. So it's really important that yourself and your staff really acknowledge these first impressions and how crucial it is. From a customer service perspective in WA in particular, we get a little bit of flack for our customer service standards. And hopefully that is improving through training and a range of different things. But I think it can really impact your overall experience. So you could walk into a cafe, for example, and you've got someone making coffee that's kind of behind a coffee machine. And those coffee machines are huge. They could be the only one there. They could be flat out making coffee. But how many times have you stood at a counter and sort of waited to be served and just kind of peek around to make sure they can see you, and you know that they've heard you walk in or you cough or something along those lines? So we really just want to be acknowledged. And that is something that I find can really let down those first impressions and the overall experience that you get. In terms of complaint handling, this is another area that really lets down customer service, and this is one that largely goes online. So it's directly linked with social media. Sometimes complaints can happen only on social media. Sometimes they happen in person and make it to social media. So this is a crucial element. Now, virtually everyone will have to deal with customer complaints at some point in your career. Although, we like to think that we don't receive complaints. It could be things that are completely beyond your control, that someone will feel the need to make a complaint, or it could be something that you've done. So it could be simple, like getting an order slightly wrong, or it could be a major business error. But how you handle that complaint makes all the difference. So this LEARN format is a great format to follow. Now, LEARN is obviously an acronym. The L is for listening. So listen to the customer's concern without interrupting them. Empathize, be sympathetic, make sure that you are obviously listening allows you to empathize with people. It might be the case that you need to apologize where appropriate. Now, sometimes, and like we talk about those hidden dimensions, sometimes a customer will have their own hidden dimensions and be complaining because something's happened in their day. Now, in that sense, the apology comes into it with more of a, I'm sorry you're feeling this way, or it could be a genuine apology because you as a business have done something wrong, and everyone makes errors. So I think that's perfectly fine. Obviously, you want to limit that. And if there's something recurring, you need to look at your processes. But I think just really going through this complaint handling process systematically will really allow you to turn those complaints around. And quite often, if you can turn a customer around, they become an advocate. So going on to after you've apologized, the R is for react. So react, evaluate different solutions. What can you come up with to really turn this around and satisfy the customer at that point? And then the last letter is an N for notify. So notify them or follow up with them after you've offered and provided a solution. So personally check in with them to make sure that they're okay and they're satisfied. It might be at that point that they say, you know what, I'm actually not satisfied. Then you might have to start the process again by listening to them, empathizing with them, apologizing, finding another solution. So reacting with a different solution and then checking with them again. Now, if you think about a complaint situation, if you drop off at any point in this, or if you don't follow this format, that's when things go online, and it can go online and get out of control very quickly. So we'll talk about that from a social media perspective when we get to that stage as well. All right, another way to really improve your customer service, but also to really improve your revenues, is suggestive selling. So suggestive selling is essentially a sales technique where the employee asks the customer if they would like to include an additional purchase or recommend a specific product that might suit the client. So suggestive selling is used to increase the purchase amount of the client and revenues of the business. But the reason it really improves customer service is you have to understand the customer to be able to make a recommendation. So obviously from a customer service perspective, you've taken the time to understand what that customer is either there for, what their needs and wants might be, and then you're offering solutions to improve whatever they're purchasing. So that's why it has those two levels, customer service and also fantastic from a business revenue perspective. So how do you do it? Well, essentially you incorporate a feature and a benefit. So a feature is something about the product or service. The benefit is what it means to the customer. So what's in it for them? Think about how you can link the feature and the benefit and then advise the customer of that. So your greeting is really key in finding out what the customer wants. So what feature can you give them based on what you know about them? So open-ended questions are designed to encourage those full and meaningful answers using your own knowledge and your customer's knowledge or feelings and drawing information out of them. In all situations, you want to avoid that dreaded no word. An open-ended question, is the opposite of a closed-ended question. So closed-ended is really there to get that single word response. So we absolutely want to make sure that you're trying to achieve the opposite of that. So open-ended questions could be, what's the occasion? It could be, tell me what you have in mind. What are you most looking forward to about your experience, or any of those sort of open-ended things. I find if a customer service person or whoever is representing the business shares their own experiences, so and sometimes in a hospitality setting, for example, you'll draw that out of them. What's your favorite dish on the menu? And sometimes it's it's the customer that's really asking these open-ended questions. So it's really important that that goes two ways. As a customer service representative or person, you should be sharing your own experiences and really improving that customer service experience through this suggestive selling. Now that, as I mentioned, leads to a more positive experience that's highly likely to translate into higher retention, stronger advocacy, and will go online. So that direct link to social media. So keep that in mind. Suggestive selling is amazing for small businesses, but great for customer service. All right, so how does that customer journey and all of the customer service sort of things that we've spoken about fit in and relate to the social media space? Well, first of all, having a look at what social media is, it's any website or application that enables users to create and share content or to participate in social networking. So it's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's Twitter, a range of other social sharing sites keep in mind that social media is now a lot more than messaging and acquisition. It also really impacts your SEO, so your search engine optimization. So I'll expand more on that in a minute, but the more engagement you have on a social media perspective on your social media channels, the more it's going to improve your search engine rankings. So keep that in mind. It sends signals to Google as well. Now, before I go into that though, just in terms of why social media is so important, well, the stat is that 88% of people are influenced by online reviews and comments. So social pressure can really tarnish your brand as quickly as you grow it. And you need to keep in mind that fingertips are always on the move. So whether someone's waiting in line and perhaps a little bit disgruntled about service, they can quickly let their friends know on Facebook. Or, you know, if you've enjoyed your stay at a hotel, you'll go on TripAdvisor and you could blog on other sites about products or services you've experienced. So social media has played this key role in a power shift to customers. So think about how immensely connected the world has become since the introduction of social media. If you've had a bad experience, you can just you can post a review on a number of different sites. If you want to praise a business on perhaps the latest product that they've launched, you could create a little video that can go on YouTube or Instagram. So there's so many ways that we can interact with a brand. Now, the risks of social media are that it can greatly affect your reputation, but there are a huge number of positive impacts as well. Now, in terms of how social media can really positively impact your customer service, well, first of all, your job is to look at how and where social interactions fit into your customer journey. So going back to that customer journey map that I mentioned, have a think, what are those touch points throughout that customer journey where social media pops up? And then make sure that you are completely maximizing your efforts there to be a part of any conversations that are going on, and that you're also listening to the feedback from your customers. So some tips for that are, first of all, to reap the rewards, or reap the benefits, I should say, of two-way brand engagement. So customers absolutely love it when businesses share information, when you share tips, ideas. It could even be a bit of banter across social media. So consumers also love to send a message out to their favorite brands or businesses over social channels, and they genuinely get really excited when someone responds back. So that two-way engagement on social media is a fantastic way to build brand loyalty, but to help give your business or your company its own voice. I would also, when I talk about sharing information, tips and ideas, when we look at how you post on social media, your social media shouldn't always be about your business, but information, those tips, those ideas are really giving back to your customers. So they will follow you because they've purchased from you, because they want to purchase from you, because they're interested in your product or brand. So if you just send them advertising imagery type thing, so just it's all about you, then people are going to get fairly bored. But if you can start sharing other information that surrounds your product or service by way of, like I said, tips, ideas, it's going to add value to them following you and really encourage them to engage more with you. I would also consider social media an extension of your contact info. So today, customers expect a response to their comments or concerns within hours, not days. So social media lets customers really effortlessly reach out to you, so they don't get stuck on hold. They don't have to wait for an email response. So they don't want to go through that hassle to even find your phone number. So they're popping online to engage with you. So it's really important that you are there to get back to them quickly. And like I said, within hours, not days. Now, this comes specifically into play when we talk about complaints. You can nip complaints in the bud very easily. Obviously, when we talk about complaint handling, we're speaking about that from a face-to-face perspective, or even when the customer's reached out to you. But in terms of social media, avoiding social media won't stop customers from speaking up if they've got a complaint. So let's say that you didn't handle things very well face-to-face, or when the customer approached you about a complaint, they might then take it online. Or you could have another situation where a customer doesn't raise a situation with you at all directly and purely goes online. So if you've got a presence on social channels, you will know about those issues and can address them really promptly to get ahead of the situation. So studies show that 70% of brands on social outlets respond to customer complaints within hours. So you've got to be there. If you're not there to do it, your competitors might jump on and join the conversation, or other consumers might jump on and join the conversation. And that's where things can get really out of hand. So I've seen it a number of times, even with small businesses here in Perth, where you've got, I saw one situation where someone wasn't happy with a dish that they had at a particular outlet. They went on and posted a picture of that dish in a complaint to the outlet. The outlet wasn't there to answer that complaint, but lots of other people got on, and it really went viral very, very quickly. That particular situation, there was a perfectly good explanation around the presentation of that dish. That particular situation ended up on several different news sites, and even, it must have been a slow news day, but even made the news that night. So completely avoidable by being on top of situations very, very quickly. Obviously, from a social perspective, you have to make sure that you've got your phone number or email address listed so you can provide them with a quick way to access you if there's a service that they've already purchased and they want to get in contact with you. But obviously, people will post online just for the sake of other people seeing it as well. Now, from a positive perspective, social media allows you to spot trends on or even perhaps before they occur. So you should really keep your ear to the ground and pay really close attention to what customers are talking about in order to spot those trends. So it could be that they're talking to you directly. It could be that they're talking to each other on communities, blog type communities that are product or service related. It could be their engagement with your competitors. So having a look at the conversation that's going on is really important. Obviously, you've got your own analytics and information that you can have a look into in terms of what sort of customers are accessing your pages, but also you can monitor hashtags. Like I said, follow your competitors' pages. And that just really gives you a bit of a head start on providing customers what they might want and allows you to spot any trends that might be arising. Now, you will have your own hashtags that you've set up, no doubt, but keeping an eye on other relevant hashtags is really important as well, because that could allow you to spot broader trends or more global trends. Now, keep in mind, social media also gives you additional access to your customers. So social media channels shouldn't always be that advertising opportunity. It's not the right medium for major sales campaigns from an organic perspective. Obviously, outlets like Facebook and Instagram, you have specific advertising, but in terms of what you're posting to go out to your audience, I would look at an 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time be posting about that information, tips, hints, engaging content. 20% of the time it can be, it might be an odd offer or deal or something that you want to put out to your audience, just as long as it doesn't represent the majority of your posts. Now, keep in mind, if you want to increase sales in the long term through your social media activities, you also have to be prepared to use that channel for customer service. So it's hugely important that we're on there, we're answering reviews, positive or negative. We're on there engaging with questions. And I see this quite a lot. You see it a lot in advertising where a company will post an ad on social media and people going on and asking questions about the product or service that's being advertised and no one's responding to them. So what a missed opportunity. It's almost like a lead for your business. And if you're not there to answer it, it's bad from a customer service perspective, but you're definitely missing those opportunities. So keep that in mind. It has to be used for customer service. Now, I touched on this earlier, but social media sends signals. Now, it can really positively impact your SEO. So not only do those social media interactions affect what you and your customer sees, it also affects what you do behind the scenes and how well you come up in searches. Now, because so much sharing takes place on major social media platforms, social signals are important to SEO. And I refer to Google a lot because the majority of SEO efforts are generally Google focused, but there's other search engines, of course. And now social signals, what that refers to is a web page's collective shares, likes, and comments. So your overall social media visibility as perceived by search engines. So those activities contribute to your organic search ranking. And they're seen as another form of citation or authority. So it's similar to backlinks. Now, backlinks are where you've got a link from someone else's website to yours, and that gives you a certain level of authority from a search engine's perspective. And these social media signals are equally the same. So if you've got strategies that are designed to increase your social media engagement, now that's fantastic for customer service, obviously for future retention, advocacy, and attracting future customers, but it will really raise your website search engine ranking as well. So if you're looking to, if you're doing an SEO or any SEO work, obviously make sure that social media is part of that strategic approach. And obviously, in addition to all of your usual SEO tactics, it can't sit alone. You'll need to consider everything else from an SEO perspective. Okay, in terms of increasing social signals, so first and foremost, your strong content is absolutely key. Now, that content should be valuable, entertaining, it could be informative, and that kind of content always gets a lot more positive interaction than blatant or spammy sort of advertising. So some tried and true strategies for sort of increasing your social signals are to post regularly. Keep your brand at the top of social media news feeds. However, go for quality, not quantity. So engagement is really what you're after here. Likes, comments, shares, and collectively those three things is really going to be a lot more beneficial for you than posting regularly and getting no interaction on it. So a lot of businesses will ask me, how often should they post? And is there a benchmark? Should you be posting 3 times a day, 3 times a week? What should that be? And I would always say that, yes, posting regularly keeps your brand at the top of your consumers' social media news feeds. However, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. So what happens from a search engine algorithm, each post you do doesn't get shown to your entire audience, which I'm sure most people know that. So what happens is, let's say you post today and it gets seen by 500 of your 1,000 followers, but a lot of those people get online and you start getting a lot of interaction on that post. So you get a lot of likes, a lot of comments, a lot of shares. The next time you post, Facebook, as an example, will serve that post to more people because it basically goes, all right, well, obviously people liked that, so we'll show it to more people next time because they'll probably like it as well. So just like Google, Facebook's algorithms are basically designed to please the customer. So what's boring and isn't getting engagement, they're going to go, all right, well, that didn't do very well. So they must always sort of post boring content. We won't show as many people next time. So bad posts can actually do you damage, is the point in all of that. So make sure you keep that in mind, quality over quantity. Images obviously get a lot more interaction, and that goes across all social media types. Obviously Twitter is only word focused, but yeah, if you're looking at Facebook, Instagram, images are really where it's at. Obviously respond to feedback. So listen, hear what people are saying about your brand and respond to critique in a constructive and a positive way. There's nothing worse, and we do see it quite a lot, particularly with small businesses, that can become quite defensive. And it's because we love our brand and we're emotionally connected to them, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with being passionate, but you have to go back from a customer service perspective and hear what people are saying about your brand and respond to that critique in a constructive and a positive way. Obviously, you need to monitor what's going on to be able to be part of the conversation and increase those social signals. So there's a lot of social media marketing apps that will track shares, retweets, likes, it'll track comments and keywords associated with your brand, so you can really monitor what's being said and then you can join in that conversation. Now, also look at all social media platforms. Now, I would say consider all social media platforms, but you don't have to be on all social media platforms. So produce content for the top social media sites that are relevant to your target audience. So really focus your effort on your target market. So the reason being is that obviously your key target market are the customers that are most likely to purchase from you, represent the highest value in terms of purchases and repetition and that kind of thing. So that's where you want to be. There's no point wasting your time being on a platform. Let's say that you know your market is between a certain age bracket and largely on Instagram. There's no point forcing yourself to do Pinterest posts, for example, that are going to get no interaction whatsoever. So really focus your efforts in that sense. And all of those things will really lead to increasing your social signals, which are going to be fantastic, obviously for SEO, but also for that customer service and customer engagement. Now, in order to be active on channels and encourage that engagement, you really have to support social media in your business. So the ways that you can support social media in your business, there's essentially 3 elements, and they're all very interlinked. So firstly, you have to listen. So you have to listen online and offline. You can use free tools for social monitoring that track mentions, competitors, obviously shares, likes, that kind of thing. You can become a social monitoring specialist yourself through just spending time on those social channels. Use web tools that allow you or help you to monitor. You use those brand and reputation tools. Have a look at that data and what's being said. Actively track hashtags and that kind of thing. Track what's going on. Compare your results each month on how you're doing, but also track what's being said about yourself and competitors. Then you can talk. So talk with pictures, talk with media releases, talk through engagement with customers, engage with influencers that are relevant to your target market or to your business. You can talk on blogs and video communities, so any other social networks. So make sure that you're there to be part of that conversation. Now, the third element is to support your customers. So direct people to the channels where they can talk. And what I mean by that is provide links to your social media, online, offline, so on your website, on your email footers, within your venue, verbally. When you're dealing with customers, you might see someone taking a photo of something within your business. Tell them, hey, you can go onto our Instagram page, tag us in for your chance to be featured. You can say that verbally, you can say that by posters, in writing, like I said, on your web page. Really advertise your social media channels. Now, that tells people where they can communicate with you and encourages them to communicate with you. That then gives you something you can listen to. So if they're communicating with you online, that allows you to be able to listen, to monitor what their perceptions are, how they're feeling about your brand, and then it allows you to talk back to them. So it's that cycle of engagement. You have to support them to be able to listen to them, to be able to talk back to them. So hopefully that sort of all ties in and makes sense, but make sure that you are supporting social media and don't keep those channels secret. Make sure that you're advertising them wherever you can. Also encourage people to, like I said, to tag you into posts and to use your hashtags. So have a look at what hashtags best suit your business. Make sure that there's not already a lot of noise on a hashtag and a lot of posts. And then that gives you a platform for you to then actively see people using your product or your services. So going back to that customer journey, now social media is an essential part of this journey. It really allows you to improve your customer service. It allows you to engage with your customers and provide real-time responses to any customer queries or questions or even feedback. Now, through listening and talking, and then also supporting in that social media space, you'll really enhance the advocacy component of the journey, but also really enhance that brand awareness. And that'll mean that you become visible when your customers begin that journey. So it is all very much linked. So remember that while a lot of businesses do focus their efforts on those first 3 stages of awareness, consideration, and purchase, that can be a really hugely missed opportunity, because the last 2 stages, loyalty and advocacy, that's where you're going to get your most high value customers, who in a lot of cases will actually even send you more business because they are advocates. So they're recommending you to friends and family, and therefore you're getting new business that way. Now, another interesting thing is from a retail sense, it costs you about 8.5 times more to attract a new client, which I mentioned earlier, than to retain an existing client. So definitely keep that in mind and make sure that you are doing everything you possibly can in those last 2 stages of retention and advocacy, because it will lead to new customers as well as retaining those existing customers, of course. All right, so that wraps up our session on customer service effects on social media. I hope it makes sense to you, and I hope there's some things that you can take out of it to improve, or at the very least to better understand the connection between what happens face-to-face with your customers and what happens online. So I'm going to stay online now and answer any questions that you have, but just keep in mind we've only scratched the surface. If you want to know more or talk about any other aspect of your business, you can always book a one-on-one appointment with me. You can do that through your ASBAS login. Keep in mind also that this program was due to conclude tomorrow, 30th of June. Now, because you guys are already registered for the program, you can book appointments throughout the month of July. So that's kind of a bit of a transition month. You can book an unlimited number of appointments, so there's no limit on that. But as of the 1st of August, the program will change significantly. So we're not too sure what that looks like in the future and if advisors like myself or the others will be around. So yeah, if you do want to book in, I would encourage you to do that in the month of July. But like I said, I'm going to stay online now. Thanks again for your time. I do hope that we get to chat again soon, but please drop any questions in and I will be here to answer them. Thanks again.